This is the live podcast with Manuel, living in full expression. Most people think the problem is that they don't have enough inspiration. They're wrong. The problem is that they have too much and they've confused access with input. Creativity has never required more materials. It has always required more hunger. The artists, entrepreneur, and leaders who produce truly original work aren't the ones with the libraries of references. They are the ones who learned to sit inside the discomfort of not knowing long enough for something genuinely new to emerge. This episode is about recovering that hunger and understand why your phone, your feeds, and your perfectly created folders of inspiration may be the very thing standing between you and your most original work. Welcome to the live podcast with me, your host, Manuel. And today we're going to be talking about what it actually costs you when you never have to wait, never have to search, and never have to sit with the discomfort of knowing what comes next. This is not a conversation about digital detox. It is a conversation about your originality and what is quietly eating it alive. So if you're ready, let's get started. Now let me ask you, when was the last time you were bored? I don't mean restless. Not between things, actually genuinely uncomfortably bored, where you had nothing in your hand, nothing queued up, and the silence was loud enough that your mind had to start doing something with it. I want you to think about that for a moment, because I suspect it has been a long time, maybe years, and I want to offer you a thought that might be uncomfortable. That space, that boredom, that friction, that desperate scratching around for something to hold on to. That was not a problem to be solved. That was the beginning of your most original work. We have built a world of infinite causes and told ourselves it is a world of infinite possibility. And in doing so, we have quietly removed the one condition that creativity has always required, and which is what is needed. All right, let's look at the pattern. What digital satiety actually does to the creative mind. There's a concept in psychology called satiation. It describes what happens when a need is so thoroughly met that the motivation driving it disappears entirely. A hungry person will work hard to find food. A person who has been grazing continuously all afternoon feels nothing, no drive, no urgency, no pull. The appetite simply isn't there. What we have done without fully realizing it is satiate ourselves creatively. Every morning, before most of us have had a clear thought of our own, we have already consumed 30 pieces of other people's thinking, someone's opinion, someone else's aesthetic, someone else's framework, someone else's story, and we call this research. We call it staying current. We call it inspiration. But there's a precise moment, and you know this moment, where inspiration tips over into something else, where you have looked at so many other people's work that your own voice gets quieter and quieter until you can barely hear it at all. This is digital satiety, and it is not lazy. It is not a character flaw. It is predictable, almost mechanical response to a specific kind of overload. Here's what actually happens inside the brain when it is flooded with stimulation. It stops generating and starts categorizing. Instead of producing new materials, it begins sorting and filing. Instead of synthesizing, taking two unrelated things and fusing them into something original, it starts matching. This reference goes with that reference. This idea connects to that idea. The output is created and not creation. It looks productive. It can feel productive, but it is not the same thing. The deeper problem is this. The deep, agonizing work of making something from nothing has always required a particular psychological state, a state of productive discomfort. Think of the great inventors who invented things that we use today. Those inventions came at the point of discomfort that comes when you don't have the answer and you cannot simply look it up. When the canvas is blank and there's no Pinterest board to reference. When the page is empty and there's no voice notes in your phone with a help-formed idea you can rescue. That discomfort, that particular pressure, is not a warning sign. It's actually a sign that the real work is about to begin. We have removed it entirely, and with it, we have removed one of the primary engine of original thoughts. Now, I want to do something with you right now that I do with most clients when this pattern shows up in our work together. I want to ask you some real questions, actual questions that requires actual answers. I want you to stop for a moment. What I am about to ask you, I want you to actually answer it. As always, if you can write it in a paper, write it in your book, in your diary, it will be brilliant. But don't let it pass. And you need to take it seriously. And here's the first question. When you sit down to create something, a strategy, a presentation, a proposal, a piece of content, a business plan, what is the very first thing you do? Yes, I know something would have popped up. Check ChatGPT, check Claude. But I want you to answer that question for yourself, sincerely. I don't mean what you intend to do. What do you actually do? In the first 60 seconds, where does your attention go? If the honest answer is, I look at what other people have done first, I want to just sit with that. There is no judgment. You're just naming it, and it's just data. So don't overthink it. What does that first reach for external material tell you about how much you trust what is already inside of you, in your heart? I want you to feel the answer, because here's the second question, and this one is sharper. Think about the last piece of work you produced that you were genuinely proud of. Not pleased with, I mean proud of. The kind of proud that feels different in your body. When was it? And how much of it came directly from inside you, unmediated by anything you had consumed first? I'm not asking this to make you doubt your process or doubt your productivity. I'm asking it because, in my experience working with high performers, the work they are most proud of almost always has one thing in common. It felt like it came from somewhere real, somewhere deeper than a reference folder. And if the honest answer is uncomfortable, that is not weakness. That is also data. Now that brings me to the third question. What are you afraid would happen if you start a piece of work with nothing? No references, no research, no mood board, no saved posts, no existing template, just you and the blank page. I'm asking you to name the fear underneath the scrolling, because the scrolling is almost never really about research. It's about managing the anxiety of the blank page. And the blank page is frightening because it holds a question you might not want to answer. Do I actually have something to say? The answer is yes, but you have to be willing to stay in the discomfort long enough to find out. If something just shifted in you reading that, sit with it. That is exactly where we need to go. So here's what I find consistently when I work with people on this. The overconsumption of external inspiration is almost always rooted in one of two things. Either a fear that their own thinking is not enough, that they need to supplement it, validate it, prove it against what already exists before they commit to it, or a learned helplessness around original synthesis, which is a creative muscle that have been so underused that it genuinely feels unvaluable. So I want you to know that neither of these is permanent. Both of them are addressable, but neither of them is addressed by looking at more content. What the session has just revealed is the gap between the external stimulus you have been feeding yourself and the internal voice you may have been quietly starving. That gap is where this episode lives. And the next segment is about closing it. So I need you to stay with me. So here are the 3 moves to recover your creative drive. Not in theory, in practical. This week, with the work in front of you right now. Let's talk about move number 1, the blank page first rule. Before you consume anything, create something. Even if it's bad, even if it's a 5 minutes of badly organized thought on a blank document that you deleted afterward. The rule is this: the first thing you do when you sit down to create is generate, not consume. You do not open a browser, you do not scroll through your saved references. You put something, anything, on the page first. This is not a productivity hack. It is a deliberate act of creative self-trust. You are training yourself to reach inward before you reach outward. And over time, the internal resources becomes more available, more accessible, and more distinctly yours. So you start first 5 minutes, non-negotiable. The rule is absolute, something from you before anything from elsewhere. And here's move number 2, the scarcity sprint. So once a week, set a timer for 60 minutes and work under deliberate constraint. No internet, no reference, no note from previous research, just you and the problem. This is not about the output. The output might be rough, but it is about the process, specifically the experience of your own mind under productive pressure. Most people discover inside these sprints that they know significantly more than they thought, that the synthesis is available, that the original thinking is there. It's just have been drowning in noise. The scarcity sprint is a weekly reminder that you are the resources, not the algorithm. Then move number 3 is the inspiration audit. So you need to look at the last 10 pieces of content you consumed. Articles, social posts, videos, podcasts, books, anything. Now ask one question about each. Did this make me think something new? Or did it confirm something I already believe? Because content that confirms is comfort. Content that genuinely expands, that introduces a genuine collision between something you thought and something you hadn't considered. And that is rare. So the audit is not about cutting consumption. It's about making it intentional. You are moving from passive grazing to active selection, from digital satiety to digital hunger. Because hunger, the real kind, the kind that sharpens everything, is not something to be managed. It is something to be protected. So in closing, here are the 3 things I want you to take away from today's episode. Number 1 is this: before you consume anything today, tomorrow, the next morning, create something first. First 5 minutes, whatever it is in your head. This is the blank page first rule, and it starts today. Number 2, schedule a scarcity sprint this week. 60 minutes, one problem, no internet, no reference, no ChatGPT, no Claude, no Perplexity, just you. Notice what comes up and notice that it is more than you expected. Number 3, run the inspiration audit on your last 10 inputs. The ratio of expansion to confirmation will tell you everything about whether your current consumption is fueling your creativity or quietly replacing it. And if today's episode had opened something for you, this week's premium worksheet will take you deeper. It is built around recovering your creative voice specifically, with exercises drawn directly from this episode. You will find the link in the show notes. And if this episode also landed for you, I want you to share with one person in your world who you think has more originality inside than they are currently expressing, because that is the whole point. The original work is there. The voice is there. It has just been outcompeted by noise. This has been the Live Podcast with me, your host, Manuel. And until I come your way in our next episode, keep living in full expression.